I was parked outside my son's house when I noticed my daughter's car in the driveway. What was going on? I cautiously crept closer to the window. The conversation I overheard still lingers in my mind. "He won't even know what hit him," my son Daniel said. His voice carried through the cracked window, cold and certain. "Once we get power of attorney, the apartment's ours, then the accounts." My daughter Sarah laughed. Actually laughed. "Mum's too weak to stop us. She barely understands how banks work anymore." I pressed my back against the brick wall, my heart hammering. These were my children, the babies I'd nursed through fevers and nightmares, the teenagers I'd worked double shifts to put through college. "The wedding's perfect timing," Daniel continued. "Lisa will ask for the keys in front of everyone. Mum won't refuse with all those people watching. Once we have access, we file the paperwork." Lisa, his fiancée. I'd never trusted that woman, with her practiced smile and calculating eyes. I drove home in a daze. My hands shook on the steering wheel. 43 years I'd lived in that apartment. 43 years of scrubbing floors at the hospital, taking extra shifts, skipping meals so my kids could have new shoes. And this was my payment. The wedding was 3 days away. I sat in my kitchen that night, staring at the worn linoleum I'd been meaning to replace for a decade. The apartment was small. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in. But it was mine. Paid off 10 years ago with money I'd earned 1 exhausting shift at a time. The walls held memories. Daniel's height marks on the doorframe, the chip in the counter where Sarah had dropped a plate during her first attempt at cooking, the water stain on the ceiling from when the upstairs neighbor's pipe burst. This was my life, my history, my proof that I'd survived and built something, and they wanted to take it. I pulled out my bank statements, looked at the numbers I'd accumulated through decades of careful saving. $270,000. Not a fortune, but enough. Enough to live comfortably in my old age. Enough to handle emergencies. Enough to prove that my life had meant something. They wanted this too. I thought about calling them, confronting them, asking why. But I knew why. I'd always known, even if I'd refused to see it. I'd worked too much when they were young, missed school plays and parent-teacher conferences, come home exhausted and short-tempered, fed them frozen dinners while I collapsed on the couch. I'd given them everything I could, but what I could give had never been enough. They'd grown up resentful, entitled, convinced they deserved more than they'd gotten. Maybe they were right. Maybe I'd failed them as a mother. But that didn't give them the right to rob me. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, planning. If they wanted war, I'd give them war. But I needed help. I needed someone who understood how to fight dirty. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. I drove across the city to a part of town I usually avoided. Strip malls and pawn shops and bars that opened at 10 in the morning. The building I wanted was tucked between a laundromat and a check cashing place. Grey concrete, narrow windows, a small sign that read, Webb Security Solutions. I'd found the name in a newspaper article 6 months ago, a piece about corporate espionage and private investigators. Frank Webb, the owner, had been quoted saying something that stuck with me. "Everyone has secrets. My job is finding them." I needed someone who could find secrets. The office was sparse. A desk, 2 chairs, filing cabinets. A woman sat at the desk, middle-aged, tired-looking. "Can I help you?" "I need to speak with Frank Webb." "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I saved his life 30 years ago and I'm calling in the favor." The woman's eyebrows rose. She picked up a phone, pressed a button, spoke quietly. Then she nodded toward a door. "He'll see you." Frank stood when I entered. Tall, late 60s, weathered face with sharp eyes. He stood apart me for a long moment. "Margaret? You remember?" I remember the nurse who pulled me out of a burning car, who stayed with me in the hospital, who visited every day for 2 weeks, even though I was a stranger. He gestured to a chair. Sit. Tell me what's wrong. So I did. I told him everything. The overheard conversation, the wedding plan, my children's betrayal. When I finished, he was silent for a full minute. What do you want? He asked finally. I want to protect myself. I want to stop them, and I want them to understand what they've done. That's 3 different things. Protection is easy. Stopping them is harder. Making them understand, that might be impossible. I have to try. He nodded slowly. Okay. But you need to know something up front. This won't be clean. This won't be nice. If you want to fight back against your own children, you're going to have to be willing to hurt them. They hurt me first. That's not an answer. Can you hurt your own kids? Really hurt them? I thought about Daniel's cold voice, Sarah's cruel laugh, the years of sacrifice they'd dismissed, the life they planned to steal. Yes, I said, I can. Frank smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Good, then let's get to work. Over the next 2 days, Frank's team moved fast. They ran background checks, pulled financial records, dug into my children's lives with surgical precision. What they found was worse than I'd imagined. Daniel's construction company was hemorrhaging money. He'd underbid contracts, mismanaged projects, and borrowed heavily to cover his mistakes. He owed nearly $200,000 to a loan company called Pinnacle Capital. The company had ties to organized crime. They wanted their money back, and they wanted it soon. Sarah's art gallery was equally doomed. She'd spent wildly, buying expensive pieces from unknown artists, betting on them becoming famous. None had. She'd borrowed $115,000 from various banks and investors. The interest was crushing her. And Lisa, perfect Lisa, with her designer clothes and practiced charm, had been married twice before. Both times to wealthy, older men. Both marriages had ended in divorce after less than 3 years. Both times, she'd walked away with substantial settlements. She's a professional, Frank said, spreading documents across his desk. She finds successful men, marries them, takes what she can, and moves on. Your son is her 3rd target. Does he know? I doubt it. She's good at what she does. Very good. I stared at the paperwork, at the evidence of my children's desperation and greed. They need my money to survive, I said, not survive, to maintain their lifestyles, to keep pretending they're successful. Your apartment, your savings, it's their lifeline. So, if I cut them off, everything collapses. But that's not enough, is it? You want them to understand. Yes. Then we need to do more than just protect your assets. We need to document everything, record conversations, gather evidence, build a case so complete that when it all falls apart, they'll know exactly why. He pulled out a small device, a recording pen. Wear this to the wedding. Keep it on you at all times. Record everything. That's legal. You're in a one-party consent state. As long as you're part of the conversation, you can record it. Everything they say to you, every threat, every manipulation, it's all admissible. I took the pen. It was heavier than I expected. What else? We set up protected accounts. Transfer your money somewhere they can't access. Put your apartment in a trust. Make yourself legally untouchable. They'll notice. Eventually, but by then it'll be too late. He leaned forward. Margaret, you need to understand something. Once we start this, there's no going back. Your relationship with your children will be over, permanently. Are you ready for that? I thought about Daniel as a little boy, crying when I had to work Christmas Eve. Sarah as a teenager, telling me she hated me because I couldn't afford to buy her the expensive jeans her friends wore. The slow accumulation of resentment over the years. The way they'd looked at me lately, like I was an obstacle instead of a person. The relationship was already over. I'd just been too afraid to admit it. I'm ready, I said. That afternoon, I went to a bank across town. A different bank than the one I'd used for 40 years. Frank had arranged everything, new accounts under a trust he'd created. Legal, ironclad, invisible to anyone searching under my name. The manager, a young woman with a professional smile, walked me through the paperwork. "You're transferring the full amount?" "Yes, everything." "And the apartment deed?" "Transfer that too, into the trust." "This is very thorough protection. May I ask what prompted this?" "Family issues." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. "I see this more often than you'd think. Adult children who see their parents as assets rather than people. You're doing the right thing." I wasn't sure about that, but I was doing the necessary thing. The transfers took 3 hours. By the time I left the bank, everything I owned was protected behind legal walls my children would never breach. They could threaten, they could manipulate, they could even drag me to court. But they couldn't take what was mine. I felt lighter walking to my car, and heavier. The weight of what I was doing, the bridge I was burning, settled on my shoulders like a physical thing. That night, I stood in my apartment, looking at the space I'd fought to keep. It didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a battlefield, and I was ready for war. The reception hall glittered with white lights and expensive flowers. 200 guests filled the room, their laughter and conversation creating a wall of noise. I sat at a corner table, watching Daniel and Lisa dance. They looked perfect together. Beautiful, successful, rotten to the core. The recording pen sat in my purse, already activated. Everything from this moment forward would be documented. I'd worn my best dress. Navy blue, conservative, appropriate. I'd done my hair, put on makeup. I looked like a proud mother at her son's wedding. Inside, I was screaming. Lisa approached my table around 9 o'clock. Her wedding dress cost more than I made in 3 months. The train trailed behind her like something out of a fairy tale. "Mother Margaret," she said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Her voice was sugar-sweet. "Daniel and I have been talking. We'd love to have keys to your apartment, for emergencies, you know, in case something happens and you need help." The conversations around us quieted. Faces turned toward us. This was the moment they'd planned. Public pressure, social obligation, the expectation that I'd comply rather than make a scene. "I don't think that's necessary," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Oh, but it is." Lisa's smile hardened just slightly. "You're getting older. What if you fall? What if there's a medical emergency? What if you forget to take your medication? We need to be able to get to you." "I'm 59, not 90. I don't take any medication." "Still." She held out her hand, palm up, demanding, entitled. "The keys, please. Don't make this difficult." Every eye in the room was on us now. The music had stopped. Even the waiters had frozen in place. "No," I said. The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. Her palm cracked across my cheek, the sound echoing through the silent hall. My head snapped to the side. Pain bloomed across my face, sharp and hot. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone dropped a glass. It shattered on the marble floor, the sound abnormally loud in the shocked silence. "How dare you embarrass me at my own wedding?" Lisa hissed. Her pretty face twisted with rage, the mask dropping for just a moment. "You selfish old woman. After everything Daniel's done for you, after all the times he's helped you, and you can't do this one simple thing." Daniel appeared at her side. I looked at my son, hoping to see shock, anger at his wife for hitting his mother. Instead, I saw frustration, annoyance. He was angry at me. "Mom, just give her the keys," he said, his voice tight. "Why do you have to make everything so difficult? Why do you always have to be so stubborn?" I stood up slowly. My cheek still burned where she'd hit me. My purse clutched in my hands, the recording pen capturing every word. "I raised you better than this," I said quietly. Daniel's face flushed. "You raised me. You were never home. You were always working. Sarah and I raised ourselves. I was working to feed you, to clothe you, to give you a life. You gave us nothing, Sarah said, appearing on my other side. When had she gotten there? Nothing but excuses and absence. You want us to be grateful? For what? For the mother who was never there? The three of them surrounded me now, my children, and the woman my son had married, united against me, a wall of resentment and greed. I'm leaving, I said. I walked toward the exit, my heels clicking on the marble. The crowd parted. Some faces showed sympathy, others showed embarrassment, most showed nothing, carefully blank, not wanting to get involved in family drama. I kept my head high, my shoulders back, even though I wanted to collapse, even though my face hurt and my heart was breaking, and everything in me screamed that this was wrong, that families didn't treat each other this way. But they did. Mine did. The hotel doors opened before I reached them. A man stepped through. Tall, late 60s, wearing an expensive suit. His weathered face was familiar. Frank. He looked at me, took in my red cheek, the tears I was fighting back, the rigid way I held myself together. Then he looked past me at the wedding guests pressing forward, at Daniel and Lisa and Sarah watching from the center of the room. Margaret, he said, his voice carrying through the silent hall. Are you all right? I'm fine. No, you're not. He looked at my children. Who hit her? No one answered. Who? He repeated, his voice harder now. Hit this woman? Lisa stepped forward. She's being unreasonable, making a scene at my wedding. I barely touched her. You slapped her. I can see the mark from here. It was barely anything. She's exaggerating. Frank pulled out his phone, pressed a few buttons. His voice when he spoke was cold and professional. This is Frank Webb. I need a police officer at the Riverside Hotel, main ballroom. There's been an assault. That's not necessary, Daniel said quickly. This is a family matter. Assault is a criminal matter. Frank looked at me. Do you want to press charges? I thought about it. About the humiliation. The pain. The years of sacrifice dismissed and discarded. Not tonight, I said, but I want everything documented. It will be. 2 hotel security guards appeared, then a manager. The police officer arrived 10 minutes later, young and professional. He took statements, photographed my cheek where a bruise was already forming, wrote everything down in a small notebook. The wedding was over. Guests trickled out, embarrassed and uncomfortable. The reception that had cost thousands of dollars ended before the cake was cut. Daniel and Lisa stood in the center of the ruined celebration, watching their perfect day dissolve. I left with Frank, walked out of that hotel with my head high and my evidence recorded. The war had begun. Frank drove me home in his black sedan. Neither of us spoke. My cheek throbbed. I could see it in the visor mirror, already purpling. That was brave, Frank said as we pulled up to my building. That was stupid. I should have just given them fake keys. No, you did the right thing. They showed their true nature in front of 200 witnesses. That matters. Does it? It will. Inside my apartment, I finally let myself fall apart. I sat on my couch and cried, deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere I didn't know existed. Frank sat in my kitchen, giving me privacy, making coffee I wouldn't drink. When I finally stopped, when there were no more tears left, he brought me water and aspirin. They're going to come after you harder now, he said. Tonight was their public move. Now comes the private war. What do they do next? They'll try to isolate you, make you seem unstable, build a case for incompetence. Then they'll file for guardianship or power of attorney. They'll find a doctor willing to say you're not capable of managing your own affairs. That's insane. That's how it works. I've seen it a dozen times. Adult children who want their parents' assets. They follow a pattern. How do we stop them? We don't stop them. We let them try and we document everything. Then, when they've committed enough actionable offenses, we destroy them. He set down his coffee cup. But you need to be ready for what that means. We're not just protecting you. We're going to end them financially, legally, completely. Are you ready for that? I looked at the apartment I'd fought to keep, at the life I'd built through decades of hard work, at the evidence of my children's betrayal. I'm ready. Over the next week, Frank's team went into overdrive. They didn't just investigate, they prepared a comprehensive attack strategy. Daniel's business is failing, Frank explained, showing me documents. He's behind on payments to Pinnacle Capital. They've already sent collectors. If he misses one more payment, they'll move to more aggressive tactics. How aggressive? The kind that involves broken bones. These aren't people who accept excuses. And Sarah? She's negotiating with her creditors, trying to buy time, but she's running out of room. One of her loans comes due in 6 weeks. If she can't pay, the bank will move to seize her assets. The gallery will close. And Lisa's the interesting one. She's got a pattern. Marry wealthy men, get pregnant quickly, use the pregnancy to secure a favorable divorce settlement. She's probably already off birth control. The thought made me sick. Daniel doesn't want kids. He told me that years ago. He does now, or at least Lisa does. A baby makes everything more permanent, harder to untangle. So they're all desperate. Desperate enough to rob you, desperate enough to hit you in public, desperate enough to do whatever it takes. He pulled out another file. But desperation makes people sloppy. Look at this. It was an email chain. Sarah to Daniel, Daniel to Lisa, all of them discussing the plan, how to get my keys, how to access my accounts, how to file the power of attorney documents. Where did you get this? Sarah's email isn't secured. Basic password, no two-factor authentication. My guy got in within an hour. That's illegal. So is conspiracy to commit fraud. We're fighting fire with fire, Margaret. If you want to play nice, we can, but you'll lose. He was right. I knew he was right. What do I do? You play weak, confused. You let them think their plan is working. Meanwhile, we gather evidence. When we have enough, we strike, all at once. Complete devastation. How long? 2 weeks, maybe 3. Can you hold on that long? I thought about the slap, the humiliation, the years of sacrifice dismissed. I can hold on as long as it takes. Daniel called 2 days after the wedding. His voice was cold. We need to talk, Mom. Can you come over? Of course, honey. Is everything okay? Just come over this afternoon. I wore a cardigan and comfortable shoes. I looked like someone's grandmother, harmless, confused, weak. The recording pen was in my pocket. Sarah was already there when I arrived. So was Lisa, still glowing from her honeymoon. They sat in the living room like a tribunal. I took the chair they offered, my purse in my lap. Mum, Daniel started, his voice gentle. Too gentle. We're worried about you. Worried? Why? The wedding, the way you acted. It wasn't like you. He exchanged glances with Sarah. We think you might be having some memory problems, maybe some confusion. I feel fine. That's what people with dementia say, Sarah interjected, her voice soft and sympathetic, false sympathy, practiced. They don't realize they're declining. That's why we need to help you. Help me how? Lisa pulled out papers, legal documents dense with text. We've arranged for you to see a doctor, a specialist. He can evaluate your condition, see if you need help managing things. What things? Your finances, your apartment, daily life. Daniel leaned forward. Mom, you're almost 60. You've worked hard your whole life. You deserve to rest. Let us handle the complicated stuff. My finances aren't complicated. I pay my bills. I manage just fine. Do you? Sarah pulled out her phone, scrolled, showed me the screen. This is your bank statement from last month. Look at these charges. Random amounts, strange transactions. This isn't normal, Mom. I looked at the screen. It showed my old account, the one I'd emptied and closed. Random transactions she'd obviously fabricated or edited. That's not my account, I said carefully. Yes, it is. Look, there's your name. That's not my current account. What do you mean, current? How many accounts do you have? I'd made a mistake. revealed something I shouldn't have. Daniel's eyes sharpened. "Mum, where's your money?" "In the bank, where it's always been." "Which bank?" "My bank, the one I've used for years." "The account number." "What is it?" "I don't remember the number." "Who remembers account numbers?" "Everyone remembers their account numbers." Daniel stood up, his pleasant mouth cracked. "What did you do? Where's the money?" "It's safe in my account." "Show us, right now. Show us your bank statement." "I don't have it with me." "Then call the bank, check your balance, prove the money's still there." "I don't need to prove anything to you." The room went silent. 3 faces stared at me, shocked, angry, calculating. "You moved it," Sarah said slowly. "You moved the money." "I protected it." "From what?" Daniel's voice rose. "From us. We're your children. We're trying to help you." "By stealing from me, by planning to have me declared incompetent, by conspiring to take everything I've worked for." Another silence. Longer, dangerous. "Who told you that?" Lisa asked, her voice sharp. "Who have you been talking to?" "No one. I heard you. At Daniel's house. 2 weeks before the wedding." Daniel's face went white. "You were spying on us?" "I was visiting my son. I heard a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. About power of attorney. About my apartment. About how I'd never see it coming." "That's not what we were talking about," Sarah said quickly. "You misunderstood. You took it out of context." "I heard what I heard." "You're paranoid," Lisa said. "Delusional. This is exactly why you need help, why you need us to manage things." "I'm not giving you anything." Daniel grabbed my arm. His fingers dug into my flesh, hard enough to hurt. "Mum, stop being difficult. We need that money. Do you understand? We need it." "Let go of me." "Not until you tell us where it is." "Let go." Sarah slapped me, not as hard as Lisa at the wedding, but hard enough. The sound cracked through the room. "Sign the papers," Sarah said. Her voice was cold, desperate. "Sign them right now, or I swear we'll make your life hell. We'll tell everyone you're losing your mind. We'll have you committed. We'll take everything anyway, and you'll spend your final years in a state facility wondering what happened. You'd do that to your own mother. You did this to yourself. You worked all the time. You were never there for us. You owe us this." "I owe you nothing." Daniel shoved me back into the chair. Lisa stood over me, papers in her hands. "You're going to sign, one way or another." The front door crashed open. Frank walked in, followed by 2 men in suits. Behind them, a police officer. "Margaret," Frank said calmly, his voice cutting through the tension. "Are you all right?" I stood up shaking. "I'm fine now." The police officer looked at my children. "I'm going to need everyone to stay calm." "Ma'am," he looked at me, "do you want to press charges for assault?" "She fell," Daniel said quickly. "She's confused. She has dementia. She doesn't know what she's saying." "She has a recording device," Frank said. He pulled out his phone, pressed play. My son's voice filled the room. "We need that money. Do you understand? We need it." Then Sarah, "We'll have you committed. We'll take everything anyway." The officer's expression hardened. He looked at my arm where Daniel had grabbed me, at my face where Sarah had slapped me. "Actually," he said, pulling out handcuffs, "I think we need to have a conversation downtown, all of you." They didn't arrest my children that night. The officer took statements, documented my injuries, and filed a report. He issued a restraining order, temporary but enforceable. My children couldn't contact me, couldn't come within 100 feet of me, couldn't threaten or harass me. It wasn't enough, but it was something. Frank drove me home again. My arm ached where Daniel had grabbed it. The bruise on my face had company now, another mark from Sarah's hand. "This is good evidence," Frank said. "Very good. Their lawyer will try to suppress the recording, but the physical evidence, the witnesses, that's undeniable." "They're my children," I said. The words felt hollow. "They're criminals. There's a difference. Is there? To me? He didn't answer. Inside my apartment, I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. 2 bruises, one on each cheek, purple and ugly, evidence of my children's love. I took pictures, documented everything. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. 43 years in this apartment, 43 years of building a life, and it had come to this. To restraining orders and recorded threats and children who saw me as an obstacle instead of a person. I should have felt victorious. I'd protected my assets, gathered evidence, proven they were the problem, not me. Instead, I felt empty. The next morning, Frank came by with more documents. His face was grim. Daniel's in serious trouble. Pinnacle Capital sent collectors to his office yesterday. They want $100,000 immediately, or they start seizing assets. Does he have it? Not even close. His business account has $12,000. His personal account has less than $5,000. He's broke, Margaret. Completely broke. And Sarah? She's negotiating an extension on her gallery loan, but she needs a $20,000 payment by next Friday. She doesn't have it either. They were counting on my money. They were counting on your everything, your apartment, your savings, your pension. They'd worked out the numbers. With your assets, they could pay their debts and keep their lives intact. Without it, he shrugged. They're finished. Good. The word felt wrong in my mouth, cruel, but also necessary. There's more, Frank continued. Lisa's been researching guardianship lawyers. She's found one willing to file paperwork claiming you're incompetent. They're planning to have you evaluated by a doctor she's already paid off. Can they do that? They can try, but with the restraining order, with the recorded evidence of their threats, no judge will take them seriously. They're desperate and they're getting sloppy. What happens next? We wait, we watch, we let them make more mistakes. He pulled out another folder. But there's something else you should know. Something we just found. He handed me documents, financial records. My hands shook as I read them. Daniel had already borrowed against his house, taken out a second mortgage without telling his wife. He owed $340,000 on a house worth maybe $320,000. He was underwater and sinking fast. Sarah had maxed out 7 credit cards. The total was over $60,000. And she was only making minimum payments. The interest was eating her alive. And Lisa. Beautiful, calculating Lisa. She'd done this before. Not twice, but 4 times. 4 marriages, 4 divorces, 4 settlements. She'd changed her name after the second marriage, created a new identity, hidden her past. Daniel had never known, had never suspected, had married a professional con artist. We could tell him, I said, about Lisa, warn him. Would he believe you? Or would he think you're trying to break them up? He was right. Daniel wouldn't listen. He'd defend his wife, blame me, double down on his choices. So we do nothing. We do nothing about that, but we continue building our case. Within a month, maybe 2, everything collapses. Their businesses fail, their debts come due. Their lies catch up with them. And when it happens, you're protected, untouchable, safe. Safe, I repeated. The word felt foreign. Frank stood to leave. At the door, he turned back. Margaret, I need to ask you something. When this is over, when they've lost everything, are you going to feel guilty? Are you going to blame yourself? I thought about that question. Really thought about it. Probably, I said honestly. They're still my children. I'll probably feel guilty for the rest of my life. But will you regret protecting yourself? No, never. Then you'll survive. That's all that matters. He left. I stood in my apartment, surrounded by the evidence of my children's betrayal and my own necessary cruelty. He was right. I'd survive. But the cost of survival was higher than I'd ever imagined. 3 weeks after the wedding, Daniel's business partners forced him out. Frank got me a copy of the termination letter. It was brutal and professional. Daniel Thompson is hereby removed from all operational roles effective immediately due to financial mismanagement and misappropriation of company funds. All access to company accounts, records, and facilities is revoked. They were suing him. $200,000 in damages. His former partners wanted their money back, plus interest, plus legal fees. Daniel called me. I didn't answer. He called again and again. 17 times in one day. Each voicemail more desperate than the last. "Mom, please, I'm sorry. I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you, but I need help. I'm drowning here. Just, please call me back." I deleted every message without listening to the end. Sarah's situation deteriorated faster. The bank called her loan, demanded full payment within 30 days. When she couldn't pay, they seized her inventory. The art gallery closed. $22,000 in paintings and sculptures, sold at auction for less than $8,000. It didn't even cover half what she owed. She sent emails, long, rambling messages that started apologetic and ended furious. "I understand you're mad, but you can't let me lose everything. I'm your daughter. You're supposed to help me. What kind of mother abandons her child?" I blocked her email address. Lisa tried a different approach. She showed up at the hospital where I used to work, found me in the cafeteria during my volunteer shift. "Mother Margaret," she said, sliding into the chair across from me. "We need to talk. The restraining order says you can't contact me. This is a public place. I'm not threatening you. I'm trying to fix this mess." "There's nothing to fix." "Yes, there is. Daniel's business is gone. Our house is in foreclosure." "I'm pregnant, Margaret. Do you want your grandchild born into poverty because you're too stubborn to help?" "You're lying. About the pregnancy." "I have proof. Doctor's notes. Ultrasound pictures." She pulled out her phone, showed me images. "See? 8 weeks. Due in February." I looked at the screen, the tiny blob that might become my grandchild. Might. That doesn't change anything. "How can you say that? This is your grandchild, your family. Don't you care?" "I cared about my children. They tried to rob me. Now I care about protecting myself." "You're bitter, selfish. You always were. Daniel told me about his childhood, how you were never there, how you cared more about work than family. Now you're proving him right." I stood up, gathered my things. "Stay away from me, Lisa, and tell Daniel to stop calling. I won't answer. I won't help. I won't be your victim." "You're a horrible person, a horrible mother. I hope you depart alone." "I probably will." I left her sitting there, walked away from the pregnancy announcement, the guilt trip, the manipulation. My hands shook, my chest hurt, but I kept walking. Security escorted her out of the hospital 10 minutes later. I watched from a window as she screamed at the guards, her beautiful face twisted with rage. The mask had finally fallen completely. That night, I sat in my apartment with a glass of wine I didn't drink. Frank had sent over more documents, updates on the complete disintegration of my children's lives. Daniel's house would be auctioned in 6 weeks. He and Lisa were moving into a rental apartment, 1 bedroom, bad neighborhood. The kind of place I'd lived when my kids were young, before I'd clawed my way up to something better. Sarah had moved in with a friend. She was working retail, minimum wage. Her art career was over. Her credit was destroyed. She'd be paying off her debts for decades, and Pinnacle Capital was getting impatient. They'd sent men to Daniel's rental apartment, not to hurt him yet, just to remind him that the clock was ticking, that patience had limits, that money was owed. Frank called around 9 o'clock. "We need to talk about exit strategy," he said. "Exit strategy? This can't go on forever. Eventually, they'll either accept defeat or escalate to something dangerous. We need to decide how this ends." "How does it end?" "That's up to you. We can keep the restraining orders in place indefinitely, cut them off completely, or we can negotiate some kind of limited contact, supervised meetings, defined boundaries." What do you recommend? Complete separation. They've shown what they're capable of. They've hit you twice, threatened you repeatedly, tried to steal everything you have. People like that don't change, Margaret. They just get better at hiding it. They're still my children. Biology doesn't obligate you to be a victim. He was right. I knew he was right, but knowing didn't make it easier. Let me think about it, I said. Don't think too long. Daniel owes dangerous people a lot of money. If he gets desperate enough, he might do something stupid, something violent. You need to be prepared for that possibility. You think he'd hurt me? Physically? I think desperate people do desperate things, and your son is very, very desperate. After we hung up, I walked through my apartment, touched the walls, looked at the few photographs I hadn't put away. Daniel as a baby, Sarah learning to ride a bike, the two of them on their first day of school, backpacks too big for their small Bonapartes. When had it gone wrong? When had love turned to resentment? When had I become the enemy instead of their mother? Maybe it was gradual. Years of small disappointments accumulating into a mountain of bitterness. Maybe it was inevitable. Maybe I'd failed them in ways I still didn't understand. Or maybe they'd just grown into selfish, greedy people who saw relationships as transactions and family as a resource to exploit. I didn't know, and maybe it didn't matter anymore. What mattered was survival, protection, refusing to be destroyed by people who should have loved me. I took down the photographs, put them in a box, closed the lid. The past was gone. Only the present remained. 4 weeks after the wedding, Sarah showed up at my apartment. She bypassed the building's security by following another tenant through the door. She knocked softly, almost tentatively. I looked through the peephole. She looked terrible, thin, exhausted. Her expensive clothes replaced by jeans and a t-shirt. Her designer bag replaced by something from a discount store. "Mom," she said quietly, "I know you're there. I just want to talk. 5 minutes. Please." Against my better judgment, I opened the door, left the chain on. "You're violating the restraining order." "I don't care. I need to say something, then I'll go, I promise. 5 minutes. I'm sorry." The words came out in a rush. "I'm so sorry for everything. The plan, the wedding, hitting you, all of it. You were right. We were greedy and cruel, and we didn't deserve you." "Is this the apology, or are you building up to asking for money?" "I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that I understand now. What we did, what we threw away. I had everything, Mom. Everything. And I destroyed it because I wanted more. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to hear it, and because I'm leaving." "Leaving?" "The city, my life, everything. I can't stay here. Everywhere I go, people know what I did, what we did. The gallery closing, the fraud. Everyone knows. I can't get a decent job, can't rebuild. So I'm leaving, going to California, starting over. Running away. Yes, running away. Because I don't have the strength to face what I've done, not like you. I didn't have strength. I had necessity. You had both." She wiped her eyes. "I wanted you to know, that I understand. You weren't a bad mother. You were a good mother to bad children. And I'm sorry. For all of it. For everything." "Okay. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Sarah? That I forgive you? That everything's fine? It's not fine. You tried to destroy me. You and your brother conspired to steal my life. You hit me, threatened me, tried to have me declared incompetent. And now you're sorry because your plan failed and your life fell apart. That's not sorry, that's regret. There's a difference." "I know. Do you? Because sorry means you'd undo it if you could. Sorry means you're genuinely remorseful for the harm you caused, not just the consequences you're facing. Are you sorry you hurt me, or are you sorry you got caught?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Both," she said finally. "I'm sorry for both, and I know that's not good enough. I know it doesn't fix anything, but it's the truth. Where are you going? In California? San Diparco. I have a friend there. She's letting me stay with her until I figure things out. What about your debts? What about them? I'll pay what I can. The rest? She shrugged. I'll deal with it, or I won't. Either way, it's my problem, not yours. No, it's not. I love you, Mom. I know I don't have the right to say that anymore, but I do. I love you too, but I don't trust you, and I don't want you in my life. I understand. She turned to leave, then stopped. Daniel's in trouble, real trouble. The people he owes money to, they're not like banks. They don't care about payment plans or negotiations. They want their money, or they want pain. He's scared, Mom. Really scared. That's not my problem either. I know, I just thought you should know. In case something happens. She left. I watched through the peephole as she walked down the hallway, shoulders slumped, carrying the weight of her failures. I closed the door, locked it, sat on my couch and cried, not for what was, but for what could have been, for the family we never managed to be, for the mother I'd tried to become, and the children who'd grown up resenting me anyway. Frank called an hour later. Sarah was just at your apartment, he said. My guy saw her enter the building. She came to apologize and to warn me about Daniel. Warn you how? I told him about the conversation, about Pinnacle Capital getting aggressive, about Daniel being scared. This is bad, Frank said. Very bad. When loan sharks don't get their money, they send a message. They hurt someone, usually the debtor, but sometimes family members, people the debtor cares about. You think they'd come after me? I think it's possible. You need protection, real protection. I can't live in fear, I won't. Then at least let me put security on your building, cameras, someone watching, just until this resolves. How does it resolve? Daniel pays or Daniel runs or Daniel ends up in the hospital. Those are the options. None of them are good, but at least with security, you won't be collateral damage. I agreed. What choice did I have? That night, I barely slept. Every sound in the hallway made me jump. Every car door slamming outside made my heart race. I'd protected my assets, but I hadn't considered my physical safety. The next morning, Frank's team installed cameras, upgraded the locks on my door, gave me a panic button that connected directly to a security company. If anything feels wrong, you press this, the technician explained. We'll have someone here in under 3 minutes. My apartment had become a fortress. Safe, isolated, lonely. Daniel came 6 days later. He didn't try to hide, didn't bypass security. He walked right up to my door in the middle of the afternoon and knocked. I looked through the peephole. He looked worse than Sarah had. Unshaven, hollow-eyed, desperate. Mum, I know you're there. Please, I just need 5 minutes. I kept the chain on when I opened the door. You're violating the restraining order. I don't care, do you understand? I need help. Call the police. The police can't help. These people don't care about police. They care about money. Money I don't have. Money I can't get. Unless you help me. No. Mom, please, I'm begging you. I'll do anything. Sign anything. I'll give you back everything. I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you. Just please, help me this one time. You don't want help. You want money. There's a difference. I want to not depart. Is that so hard to understand? You made choices, Daniel. You borrowed money you couldn't pay back. You built a life on debt and lies. You tried to steal from me to cover your mistakes. Those were your choices. Now you face the consequences. Your own son. I'm not letting them do anything. I'm just not saving you from your own stupidity. There's a difference. You know that. Sarah was right. You never loved us. You just loved controlling us. I worked 3 jobs to feed you. I sacrificed everything to give you opportunities I never had. I loved you more than I loved myself, and you repaid me by trying to rob me. So no, Daniel, I'm not going to fund your mistakes anymore. I'm not going to be your backup plan. I'm not going to rescue you from consequences you earned. Then I'll depart. Is that what you want? If you depart, it's because you borrowed money from criminals and couldn't pay it back. Not because I refused to bail you out. Your choices, your consequences, not mine. I hate you. I know, at least this way, I keep my dignity. He stared at me, through me. His face cycled through emotions, rage, despair, fear, finally, resignation. I wish you'd never been my mother, he said quietly. Some days, I wish that too. He left. I watched him walk away, shoulders hunched, defeated. My son, my baby boy, the child I'd loved more than life itself. I closed the door and called Frank. Daniel was just here. He's desperate, scared. They might. Loan sharks don't make empty threats. What do I do? Nothing. You do nothing. This isn't your problem, Margaret. He's my son. He's an adult who made terrible decisions. You can't save him from himself. So I just wait for them to hurt him. Or he runs, or he finds the money somewhere else, or he negotiates. Those are his options. But you enabling him, giving him money, that just delays the inevitable. Next month, next year, he'll be in the same situation. Because the problem isn't the debt. The problem is who he is. What he's willing to do. And money won't fix that. He was right. God help me, he was right. But that didn't make it easier. 2 days later, it happened. Daniel was jumped outside his apartment. 3 men, baseball bats. They broke his arm, cracked 3 ribs, left him bleeding on the pavement. The hospital called me. I was still listed as his emergency contact. I went. Of course I went. Whatever had happened between us, he was still my son. He looked small in the hospital bed, broken, the arm in a cast, bandages across his ribs, his face bruised and swollen. "Mom," he whispered when he saw me, "I'm here." "I know. I need $20,000 by Friday, or they'll finish what they started." "I can't give you $20,000, Daniel." "Can't or won't?" "Both. I won't enable you anymore. And even if I wanted to, giving you money doesn't solve the problem. You'll just owe someone else eventually. This never ends as long as you keep making the same choices. So what am I supposed to do? Declare bankruptcy. Move away. Start over. But you can't keep living the life you've been living. It's not sustainable. I can't declare bankruptcy. Lisa won't let me. She says it'll ruin our credit, ruin our future. Lisa is a con artist who's married and divorced 4 times. She doesn't care about your future. She cares about what she can take before she leaves. That's not true. It is true. Ask her about her previous marriages. Ask her real name. Ask her why she changed it after the 2nd divorce. You're lying. I have documentation, proof. She's been using you, Daniel. Planning to leave you once she gets what she wants. The pregnancy is just insurance, a way to secure a settlement. Get out. Daniel, get out. You're a liar, a manipulator. You're trying to turn me against my wife because you can't stand to see me happy. Get out of my room. Get out of my life. I never want to see you again. A nurse appeared in the doorway. "Ma'am, you need to leave. You're upsetting the patient." I left. Walked out of that hospital room, out of the building, into the parking lot where Frank was waiting. "How bad?" he asked. "Bad. And he doesn't want my help. Doesn't believe me about Lisa. Doesn't want to hear the truth. Some people would rather believe a comfortable lie than face a hard truth. He's going to depart, or end up permanently disabled. And there's nothing I can do. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved." We drove back to my apartment in silence. Inside, I sat in the darkness, not bothering with lights. My phone rang. Daniel's number. I didn't answer. He called 3 more times. Left 1 voicemail. "Mum, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You were right. About everything. About Lisa. About my choices. About all of it. I found her old marriage certificates, the divorce settlements. You were telling the truth. She's leaving me. She told me tonight. The baby isn't even mine. She admitted it. She's been using me from the beginning. And I fell for it. I fell for all of it. You tried to warn me, and I called you a liar. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. His voice broke. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know how to fix this. I'm broken, Mom. Completely broken. And I don't think I can come back from this. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. What I did to you, what I threw away, I understand. The voicemail ended. I sat there holding my phone, tears streaming down my face. My son was broken, destroyed by his own choices and the people he'd trusted. And I couldn't save him, wouldn't save him, because some lessons can only be learned through pain. Daniel declared bankruptcy 2 weeks later, lost everything, the rental apartment, his car, everything that wasn't legally protected. Lisa filed for divorce the same day, claiming she'd been deceived about his financial situation. She moved in with another man, someone older, wealthier, her pattern continuing. The restraining order expired. I didn't renew it. My children were no longer a threat. They were just broken people trying to survive their own mistakes. Sarah sent a postcard from California. Simple, short. Working at a bookstore, small apartment. Not much, but it's honest. Hope you're well. S. I put it on my refrigerator. Didn't respond. Daniel called once more, 3 months after the hospital. I'm moving, he said. His voice was flat, emotionless. Up north. Found a construction job. Manual labor. It's all I'm qualified for anymore. That's honest work. Yeah, honest work. Turns out that's all I should have been doing from the beginning. Building things instead of pretending to be something I wasn't. You can rebuild, Daniel. It's not too late. Isn't it? I'm 42 years old, bankrupt, divorced, broken, living in a room above a bar. Doesn't feel like there's much left to rebuild. There's always something left. You sound like you believe that. Some days I do. Do you hate me? The question caught me off guard. No. Do you love me? Yes, but I can't have you in my life. Not after everything. Maybe that makes me a bad person. Maybe it makes me a good one. I don't know anymore. I understand. For what it's worth, I don't blame you. I'd cut me off too. He paused. Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Daniel. A year passed. Then 2. My life settled into a new routine. Volunteer work at the hospital. Occasional dinners with Frank. Reading. Walking. Existing in the small, safe world I'd created. Frank had a heart attack when I was 68. Survived it, but barely. I visited him in the hospital. The roles reversed from when we'd met. I'm getting old, he said, his voice weak. We all are. I never had kids, never married, spent my whole life chasing money and revenge and justice. Doesn't seem like much now. You helped me. That counts for something. Did I? Or did I just give you tools to destroy your own family? You gave me tools to protect myself. What I did with them was my choice. Do you regret it? Every day. But I'd do it again. Does that make me a bad person? It makes you a survivor. And survival is the only morality that matters in the end. He departed 3 weeks later. Another heart attack, this one fatal. The funeral was small, a handful of business associates, no family. Just people who'd worked with him or for him. I was the only one who cried. He left me money in his will. Not a fortune, but substantial. Enough that I could stop volunteering and just exist if I wanted. I didn't want that. I kept volunteering, kept moving, kept living, because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant remembering, and remembering meant feeling all the things I'd pushed down to survive. On my 70th birthday, both my children sent cards, Sarah's from California, Daniel's from somewhere in Oregon. Neither card had a return address, just brief notes. Sarah, happy birthday, Mom. Still working, still sober, still trying. Hope you're well. Daniel, 70 years. You made it. Wish I could celebrate with you. Wish a lot of things. But mostly wish you knew I finally understand. Happy birthday. I put the cards in a box with all the others. The accumulation of distant, careful contact from children who were strangers now. That night, I sat in my apartment, looking out at the city lights. 70 years old, alive, alone, unbroken. People asked sometimes if I was lonely, if I missed having family, if I regretted my choices. The answer was always the same, yes and no, and it's complicated. I missed the idea of family, the dream of children who loved me, who visited regularly, who included me in their lives. But I didn't miss the reality, the manipulation, the threats, the cruelty disguised as concern. I'd chosen survival over sentiment, safety over family, myself over my children. Some people would call that selfish. Maybe they were right, but I'd spent 59 years putting everyone else first, working myself to exhaustion, sacrificing my health, my happiness, my life for children who grew up resenting me anyway. So for the last 11 years, I'd put myself first, protected myself, refused to be a victim. If that made me selfish, so be it. I was alive, I was safe, I was free, and some days that was enough. On a Tuesday afternoon in spring, someone knocked on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. My few friends knew to call first. I looked through the peephole. A young woman stood in the hallway. Early 20s, pretty, nervous, unfamiliar. I opened the door, kept the chain on. Can I help you? Are you Margaret Thompson? Yes. I'm Emma, Daniel's daughter, your granddaughter. The world tilted slightly. I'd known Daniel had remarried, had heard through Sarah that he had children, but I'd never seen them, never met them, never wanted to, truthfully, because meeting them meant opening doors I'd sealed shut. Does your father know you're here? No, he doesn't know I found you. He never talks about you, but I found papers, old letters. I wanted to meet you. Why? Because you're my grandmother, because I'm curious, because Dad gets this look sometimes, like he's carrying something too heavy, and when I ask about it, he says it's nothing, but it's not nothing, it's you. I stood apart her through the crack in the door. She had Daniel's eyes, my eyes, the genetic legacy passed down. Your father and I don't have a relationship. There are reasons for that. Good reasons. I know. I found the court documents, the restraining order, the accusations. I read everything. Then you know why you shouldn't be here. I know what happened. I don't know why. I don't know your side. Against my better judgment, I removed the chain, opened the door fully. Come in. She sat on my couch, looking around the apartment with undisguised curiosity, probably comparing it to whatever story Daniel had told her about me, whatever version of events he'd created to explain the absence of his mother from his life. Your father never told you about me. That you departed when I was a baby. Of course he had. Obviously. She smiled slightly. Why did you cut him off? The court documents don't really explain it. So I told her. Not everything, but enough. The wedding, the plan to steal my assets, the physical violence, the desperate attempts to have me declared incompetent, the loan sharks and the broken arm, and the complete collapse of Daniel's life. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. He's different now, she said finally. Dad, he's quiet, works hard, doesn't spend money on anything unnecessary, lives in a tiny house, never talks about the past, just works and comes home and that's it. Good, he learned something then. He's lonely. I think he misses you. He won't say it, but I can tell. I miss him too, but missing someone doesn't mean having them in your life is safe or healthy. Is that what you think? That he's dangerous? I think he was desperate once. And desperate people do terrible things. Maybe he's changed. Maybe he's learned. But I can't risk finding out. I'm 74 years old. I've built a life that works. Opening that door again might destroy everything I've protected. So you'll just depart alone? Never see him again? Never meet his kids or grandkids? That seems sad. It is sad, but it's also safe. And at my age, safety matters more than sentiment. Emma pulled out her phone, showed me pictures. Daniel with 2 children, a boy and a girl. The boy looked like him. The girl looked like Sarah. That's my brother, James. He's 8. And my sister, Claire. She's 5. They don't know you exist either. Dad told them the same lie, that you depart. Maybe I did. The person your father knew, his mother, she's gone. I'm what's left after survival, and that's not the same thing. Do you hate him? No, I love him. That's the problem. If I hated him, this would be easier. But I love him, and I can't trust him, and those 2 things can't exist in the same relationship. So we exist apart. Me in my world, him in his, and maybe that's how it has to be. Can I tell him I found you? If you want, but tell him not to contact me. Tell him I'm glad he's doing better, that he's rebuilt his life, that he has a family. Tell him I wish him well, but tell him to stay away. For both our sakes. That's harsh. That's honest. And honesty is all I have left. She stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. He talks in his sleep sometimes. My stepmom told me. He says, "I'm sorry, Mom." Over and over. Just that. Just those words. I'm sorry too, for all of it, but sorry doesn't fix some things. It just acknowledges they're broken. After she left, I sat in the silence of my apartment. My granddaughter had found me, had seen me, had heard my story, and I'd sent her away. Because some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. Some wounds, once inflicted, can't heal. Some choices, once made, can't be undone. I'd chosen survival over family 15 years ago. That choice had saved me, protected me, given me 11 years of peace and safety, but it had also isolated me, left me alone with my choices and my memories and the knowledge that I'd done what was necessary, but lost something irreplaceable in the process. That night, I dreamed of my children as babies, small and helpless and dependent. In the dream, I held them, protected them, loved them without reservation or fear. I woke up crying. 6 months after Emma's visit, a letter arrived. Handwritten, Daniel's handwriting, older and shakier than I remembered, but still recognizable. I almost threw it away. Instead, I opened it. "Mum, Emma told me she found you. I was angry at first, then relieved, then scared, then all of those things at once. I don't blame you for telling her to stay away. I understand. I understand everything now, 15 years too late. I'm not writing to ask forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not asking for reconciliation. I don't deserve that either. I'm writing because Emma asked me why I never talk about you, and I realized I didn't have a good answer. How do you explain to your children that you destroyed the best person in your life? That you took someone who loved you unconditionally and hurt them so badly they had to cut you out completely to survive? How do you admit that level of failure? I turned you into someone who had to choose between me and her own survival. And you chose survival. You were right to. I've spent 15 years trying to be different, trying to be the person you needed me to be when I was younger. I work hard, I don't borrow money, I don't chase success or status, I just exist. It's not much, but it's honest. Sarah and I talk sometimes. She's sober, 4 years now. She says she thinks about you every day, wonders how you are, misses you. But neither of us will reach out because we understand that we don't have the right. We lost that right when we tried to destroy you. Emma wants to know you. So do James and Claire, though they don't understand why. They just know there's this grandmother-shaped hole in their lives, and they're curious about it. I'm not asking you to fill that hole. I'm just telling you it exists, that my children know about you now, that if someday, somehow, you decided you wanted contact, they'd welcome it, but only if you want it, only if it's safe for you. I'm sorry, Mum. I'll be sorry for the rest of my life. Not because I got caught or because my life fell apart, but because I hurt you, because I took your love and treated it like it was worthless, because I was too stupid and greedy and desperate to see what I had until I'd destroyed it. You taught me the most important lesson of my life, that some consequences can't be avoided, that some mistakes can't be fixed, that some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. I learned that lesson. It just cost me everything to learn it. I hope you're well. I hope you're happy. I hope you've found peace, even if that peace doesn't include me. Your son, Daniel. I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in the box with Sarah's postcards and Emma's phone number that I'd never called. I didn't respond, didn't call, didn't open that door. But I didn't throw the letter away either, because some part of me, the part that was still a mother despite everything, wanted to believe that people could change, that lessons could be learned, that my children had finally understood what they'd done. Maybe they had, maybe they hadn't. I'd never know for sure. And that was okay, because my survival didn't depend on their redemption. It depended on my boundaries, my choices, my willingness to protect myself even when it hurt.